Hello, it's my lady Samantha here, and welcome to the fanfiction, A Glitch in the System, chapter 14. Now this one might be quite short, but that's because it's supposed to end on like a cliffhanging note, kinda. Sorry about that. But anyway, this chapter is the Eiffel Tower part 1, so I hope you enjoy. Marinette groaned in annoyance as she plopped onto her pink chair. A worried Tiki floated towards her.
Marinette, are you going to be alright?
The small creature asked softly. Tiki's eyes were wide, full of concern for the young guardian. Marinette glanced over at her. She forced a small smile and assured Tiki that she would be able to get through this. But was she trying to convince Tiki or herself? Marinette decided to quickly check her phone and read the time, only to find out she was already 3 minutes late. Ah! She scrambled as she flew off her chair, slipping across her room as she did. "Tiki, transform me!" she yelled in a hurry. Seconds later, Ladybug was zipping across her bakery rooftop, racing to the Eiffel Tower to meet with her partner, of whom she'd promised to tell him what was up with her earlier that day. Cat Noir stood patiently at the top of the Eiffel Tower. Worry was etched all over his face.
Where are you, Bugaboo?
He whispered to himself sadly. Had he been too pushy with his lady? Was she uncomfortable telling him her problems? Or was he simply overthinking and she was just running late? Cat Noir was very nervous to meet up with her. His sweaty palms caressing his messy blonde locks, ensuring to neaten them up ever so slightly. A thud came a few paces behind the cat hero as he spun around to be met with her. Finally, Ladybug. Ladybug's hair was neatly puffed up into her signature pigtails, complete by a set of red ribbons which were blowing around in the wind. Her eyes were slightly glossy, and she looked tired. Cat couldn't help but notice the sad look on her face, and his worry grew deeper.
Sorry, kitty,
she started.
Hoping I didn't cause you more panic. I'm sorry I'm late. I was held up.
She spoke softly, darting her eyes at everything apart from him. Cat frowned as he walked over to her, and Ladybug closed her eyes as she had her head pointed to the floor. Cat towered over her by a few feet, and without hesitation, he grabbed Ladybug's hands and clasped them tightly with his own. Ladybug's eyes shot open and widened. She froze for a moment before darting her bluebell eyes up at his emerald green. Blue met green, and Ladybug blushed harshly. Cat almost didn't notice her reddened cheeks, but as he did, he allowed a small smile to form across his features, only making her blush further.
So, m'lady, are you ready to tell me why you were so upset today?
He questioned, trying to come off calm, but Ladybug heard his aching worry within his tone of voice, and her heart panged. Cat Noir was in love with her. Before, she'd just thought it was a simple crush, or even just a fantasy he'd had, but no. More recently, Ladybug had noticed how much he truly cared for her, and a tear slid down her cheek as she remembered all the times that he'd sacrificed his life for hers. She hated how little he valued his own life. Her anger was now turned onto him. "You're so stupid!" she shouted as more tears fell from her eyes. Kat was stunned. Was he the reason why she was so upset?
Milady,
He tried, only to be cut off by Ladybug throwing herself at him. Kat was thrown off balance before they tumbled to the ground. Ladybug was now on top of him, clutching tightly to his waist as her head was buried within his chest. Cat Noir felt his face heat up.
Why do you value yourself so little?
She croaked out as a muffle. Cat was surprised by her question, but then understood. She was worried because he always sacrificed himself for her, but why? She always brought him back in the end.
Is that all that's bothering you, Bugaboo?
He whispered softly into her hair. Ladybug unlatched from him and jumped up.
What do you mean is that all?
She barked coldly.
Chaton, your life is very important. You are very important, especially to me,
she yelled. Cat stood up and again towered over Ladybug. He noticed her cheeks were again reddened, as were his. Her words played over in his head. Cat reached for her hand, but was slapped away.
I'm sorry, Bugaboo. I just need to make sure you can complete the mission. That's what's more important than me staying around. And besides, you always manage to bring me back,
he said with a gentle smile. Ladybug froze before more tears fell down her beautiful glossed eyes.
But what if one day I fail?
She said. He could hear the breaking of her voice and his heart sank. Is that how she thought every single time he had sacrificed himself? She worried herself that much over it? He felt awful. Without hesitation, Cat pulled Ladybug into him, her head resting on his chest as he stroked her hair softly.
Milady, it's you and me against the world, against everything, and no one will ever defeat us, because we're unstoppable, okay? So please, you don't have to worry yourself over it anymore,
Cat said into her raven hair. Her grip on him loosened as she gently pulled away again.
But
she began as her eyes again darted back to the ground.
That isn't all I needed to say. This isn't the only reason why I'm upset,
she said bitterly. Cat was frozen. He didn't know what else it could be about.
Well, Bugaboo, you can tell me anything,
he replied comfortingly. Ladybug turned around, not wanting him to see her cry again.
But if I tell you everything, you'll hate me,
she stuttered crossly as tears were fiercely flowing down her pale cheeks. Cat was confused. He could never hate his lady. Surely she was just overreacting. She didn't do anything that awful, right? Cat walked to her side and turned her toward him and gripped her hands tightly as they entwined together.
I'm sure it's not as bad as you think, Bugaboo,
he said softly.
Ladybug really didn't want to tell him the rest,
but she knew she had to. It was only fair that Cat Noir knew everything, starting from her plan to deceive him.
Well, it starts from why I asked you to reveal yourself.
She began coldly.
Kat's eyes widened. But I thought that was because you needed to know who I am.
Kat questioned suspiciously.
Well, actually, Master Suhan came by, and he was, angry with me because I used my Miraculous to defeat a villain instead of just you. You were all I needed, but you wouldn't answer your cat phone, and so I decided to use all the Miraculous. But then after, he came to my house and shouted at me, telling me I needed to find out your identity, or else he would take your Miraculous and choose a new Cat Noir, and I wouldn't let him do that, so...
She paused, allowing herself a breather.
I had to think of a way to safely find out your identity. But actually, I originally wasn't gonna let myself remember.
Kat's expression changed.
What do you mean you weren't going to remember it?
He said, sounding slightly hurt.
I was going to allow someone who wasn't me to remember who you really are.
Ladybug said bluntly. Cat Noir's expression was anything but pleased.
What are you talking about?
He shot out angrily. Ladybug's eyes became a watery blue as she spoke the next few words.
Liberian, he was going to remember to please Master Suhan, and I was going to forget as well. And you would have also forgotten. You wouldn't have even known that anything had changed because we were going to go back with the second chance before I'd asked you to meet me.
Kat's ears drooped.
So, what made you change your mind then, Ladybug?
He said coldly.
After all, you found out who I was already, and it's been so long that it's too late for Viperion's power. So please tell me, why did you decide to remember? What made you regret using my trust and love in you?
Kat said as his voice cracked. Ladybug was so ashamed.
Well, when you showed me that you were Adrian, I just couldn't let myself forget,
she said sadly. Kat's hands were yanked away from hers coldly.
So, you're saying you decided to remember when you found out I was Adrian?
Thanks so much for listening to this part. Part 15 will be out shortly. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm sorry my voice is a bit weird in this video, but I tried. My voice is always blocked, but I'm not sure why. But anyway,